Hello everyone, welcome back once again to High Point, our YouTube channel. And in this video, we are going to learn about Michel Foucault as a deconstructionist. So, in many other books, I have seen Michel Foucault is categorized as a postmodern writer or thinker. So that is also fine. He is also a postmodernist writer as well as a deconstructionist. So here, when we learn about deconstruction, we are also learning about Michel Foucault, his major theories, concepts, and some details about his life and career, and also the list of his major works. Okay. Before beginning the video, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, subscribe to it, and if press the bell icon while you subscribe so that you get a notification. And also, without fail, visit my website www.highpoint.in. The link to the website is right there in the description box. You can click it and see what we have provided there. After having the free trial, you can see everything that we are providing there. And yeah, if you're interested, join our family as a student and enjoy the free bonuses that we are sharing with our students, like personalized study guidelines and weekly testing every Saturdays. If you are interested, let me know. You can join the course from the website itself, and don't waste your time by digging for study materials. You can invest that time on revising them, covering them multiple times. Okay. And yeah, this is also very affordable. We are giving 15% of off going on in the website for the course. Nowadays you can grab all these facilities. Okay. And yeah, also follow me on Instagram, because there too we are sharing variety of materials in every other page Instagram sessions. And you can use this number or Instagram platform to reach out me if you have any doubts, queries related to our course or anything that we are sharing inside in this YouTube channel. Okay, let's have an introduction about Michel Foucault. He was a French philosopher, historian of ideas, writer, political activist, and literary critic. So he was so popular, and mainly some students, they find it very difficult to understand what Foucault says, how he is so important. So his nationality is French, and he is a historian of ideas, writer, political activities, and literary critics. See, he analyzed many ideas, how some ideas evolved throughout the history. He says about the birth of the clinic. He says about madness. He discusses about many fields, not only about literature. Foucault's theories primarily address the relationship between power and knowledge. So power and knowledge, around these two concepts, he mainly addresses every other topic. He mainly addressed many theories about power and knowledge, and how they are used as a form of social control through societal institutions. So he says that knowledge and power, these two things are tools through which you can establish social control. And for that establishing of social control, you can use societal institutions using power and knowledge. Okay, that's what he mainly argue. Though often cited as a structuralist and postmodernist, Foucault rejected these labels. So he was often cited as a structuralist, postmodernist, but he often rejected these labels. And now here we are learning him as part of our deconstruction studies. Okay, his thought has influenced academics, especially those working in communication studies, anthropology, psychology, sociology, criminology, cultural studies, literary theory, feminism, Marxism, critical theory. So his thoughts mainly influenced these academic subjects. We can see the humanity subjects got influenced by his thoughts and ideas. Now let's see his major works. The first one is Power. So what he says about power. Foucault's analysis of power comes in two forms, empirical and theoretical. So he mainly did analysis of power in two forms, empirical and theoretical. The empirical analysis concerns themselves with the historical forms of power and how these emerged from previous forms of power. So in empirical analysis, he says, and he is mainly concerns about the historical forms of power. If you analyze the history, what kind of power structures and power institutions that you can find, and how these emerged from previous forms of power. So a certain kind of power in a historical form of power evolved, and how these evolved from the very previous form of power. Foucault describes three types of power in his empirical essay, empirical analysis: sovereign power, disciplinary power, and biopower. See, these are the three powers that he says, that he describes while he was doing empirical analysis of power: sovereign power, disciplinary power, and biopower. According to Foucault, most people misunderstood power. So what power is? It's a misunderstood idea for most people. For this reason, he makes clear that power cannot be completely described as. So we cannot completely describe what power. So whatever definition that you are giving to power, we cannot describe it fully. A group of institutions and or mechanisms whose aim it is for a citizen to obey and yield to the state, a typical liberal definition of power. So this is a typical liberal definition that we can usually give to power, that power is a kind of group of institutions are there, or mechanisms are there, tangible or intangible institutions and mechanisms are there, for through which the institution or the mechanism aims that the citizens will obey or yield to the state. Like police is an institution or a mechanism that is used in order to control the citizens, control the citizen according to the rules and regulations of the state. Okay. The second definition is yielding to rules, a typical psychoanalytical definition of power. So this is yielding to power. What is power? When we yield to certain rules. Okay, when we submit ourselves to certain rules, then we recognize that power. A general and oppressing system where one societal class or group oppresses the other. A typical feminist or orthodox Marxist definition of power. So this is a typical feminist and orthodox Marxist definition of power. So what is power? It's a general and oppressing system. Power holds a certain class of people, or power held by a certain class of or group of people who has more power over the other class of the society, and they oppress and they exercise their power, their oppressive system over others in order to rule others, in order to make things favorable to them. Now, Foucault is not critical of considering these phenomena as power, but claims that these theories of power cannot completely describe all forms of power. So these three definitions that we have seen from different perspectives, these things are not wrong. These things are not in a way cannot display or describe power. Foucault is not arguing that, but it is incomplete. It is not completely or fully describe the power, the phenomena, the form of power. All forms of power is not included in these definitions. Foucault also claims that a liberal definition of power has effectively hidden other forms of power to the extent that people have uncritically accepted them. So he says that there are many number of powers. So these liberal definitions, so these three definitions they are liberal, they are not addressing completely all forms of the power. So there are other powers which are hidden to some extent, to that extent that people have uncritically, even without thinking, even without questioning, accepted all these powers, and they feel that it is natural. Such kind of hidden powers are there. So these are the some things that he says about power. So there are many other concepts he says about power and knowledge, but I'm not going to in detail about it. We have certainly have some restrictions when we post a video, and here it should not be exceeding more than 1 hour, more than half hour. Nobody will view it. So I'll give some hints to the major concepts, and we will discuss major concepts. If you want individual videos of these concepts, you can comment that. You can ask without any delay. I'll be coming up with that videos. You can ask that in the comment section. Okay. So mainly he says that power and knowledge, these two things are used in order to oppress. If you have power and if you have knowledge, power is also a kind of, power will be how you will get power when you have some knowledge. So knowledge has some power, and these things are used in order to, knowledge is used and appropriated in order to oppress people, in order to make people obey you, in order to exercise some rules and power over other people. The second concept by Foucault is the body and sexuality. According to Foucault, the body is not something objective that stands outside history and culture. So he says that body, the concept of body, is not something that is objective. It is not always the same throughout the history, throughout the culture. The viewpoint about body, the way in which that sexuality or body are viewed, these things are not same. It's not objective, but it is very much inside history and culture. Instead, Foucault argues the body has been and is continuously shaped by society and history, by work, diet, body ideals, exercise, medical interventions, etc. So the concept about body, the beauty of the body or ugliness about the body, it is continuously, these concepts, any other concepts related to body, it is continuously shaped by society and history. It was like that previously in history, and now also it's the same. So by work, according to your work, according to your diet, according to the place you are living, according to the body ideals, according to the exercise that you are doing, the body movements that you have, according to the medical interventions, body has different dimensions. Body is shaped, not only the physical body shape, but the concept of body itself got shaped by society and history throughout these times continuously. Foucault presents no theory of the body, but does write about it in Discipline and Punish, as well as in the history of sexuality. He is not presenting a theory about body, sexuality and all that he invents, but he definitely talks about it, the body, its concepts, in the work such as Discipline and Punish and the history of sexuality. Foucault was critical of all purely biological explanation of phenomena such as sexuality, madness and criminality. So related to body, he is mainly talking about the biological explanations of phenomena such as sexuality, madness and criminality. Further, Foucault argues that the body is not sufficient as a basis for self-understanding and understanding of others. So when you see someone's body, okay, that is not sufficient. Your own body is not sufficient in order to form as a basis for some self-understanding. By examining your body, it is not enough to understand the basis about yourself or anyone else. So for self-understanding and understanding of others, the study of body is not enough. In Discipline and Punish, Foucault shows how power and the body are tied together. See, this power and body, these two things are tied together. For example, by the disciplinary power primarily focusing on individuals' bodies and other behavior. So you think about power. What is power? Power is, rule over a class of people or institutions, mechanisms. They exercise some power, or they regulate the people. They regulate people's behavior, right? Their movements. So using your body, you cannot move. So if you want to move, you have to use your body, right? So it's mainly focusing this power, mainly the disciplinary power, especially focusing upon individuals' bodies. Take the example of a classroom. The teacher says that be quiet and be disciplined. What does that mean? You have to remain silent and you should not move. So how does discipline is carried out? It is by restricting body movements and body behaviors, right? Foucault argues that power, by manipulating bodies or behavior, also manipulates people's mind. So when you manipulate bodies' behavior, when you restrict using power, when you restrict or manipulate bodies or behavior, movement of bodies and behavior, you through that power itself, through that manipulation of bodies and power, you can manipulate people's mind as well. So how come they remain disciplined? How the students are remained disciplined and silent when the teacher asks them to? Teacher is restricting the body behavior and the movement, right? But internally, what happens? She or he is also manipulating that student's mind, okay, using that power. Foucault turns the common saying, the body is the prison of the soul, and instead posits that the soul is the prison of the body. So what you're thinking, what you are inside there, in your mind or soul, that is that you can, that your body can do. You feel that you should not speak in the presence of the teacher, then you won't speak. You cannot move according to your whatever you want, then you won't move, right? So the power will in a way controls your mind or soul. So he turns this comment saying the body is the prison of the soul, but it is the soul is the prison of the body. So he turns it that way. The third concept is that knowledge. Foucault is critical of the idea that humans can reach absolute knowledge about the world. So he says that in the near future or the far away future, we cannot acquire the absolute knowledge about this world. That is unachievable. So he is critical about the idea that humans can reach absolute knowledge about the world. A fundamental goal in many of Foucault's work is to show how that which has traditionally been considered as absolute, universal and true in fact are historically contingent. So I will give you an example. See, we are standing in the 21st century. When we look back, we feel that our culture is so static. We feel that universally everywhere in India the culture was the same. Every point of the time the culture was same. Suddenly when modernism or postmodernism, suddenly after British colonialism ended, India got a different kind of culture. Or suddenly when we have these phone gadgets and all, then our behavior changed. Until that point of time, everything was the same, everything was absolute, nothing was changing, everything was universal, everything that is historically that we are reading is so beautiful. We feel that our history is so beautiful. We feel that our, in the sense that everything that is there in the past was so superior than our life. See, mainly our parents will say this. Okay, so people had they are of the belief that everything now is so polluted, everything now is so chemically drenched, and the food that we are getting, that's not the health of the people is deteriorated. But that's not true. Say in every other field, infant mortality we have improved, life expectancy improved, education improved, so everything is improving. But when we think back, when we look at the past, we feel that, see, whatever we had in the past were so beautiful, so absolute and universal. Our culture, in the case of culture, you will feel the same. See, Ashabharda Samskaram, it never changed. It was like that. Suddenly, in the point of on a particular point of the time in the history or the near past, everything got started changing. But that's not the case. It involved every other concept, every other practice that we had in our society evolved. It started and it ended and it evolved to something else. And many things we are not practicing today because as a society, we are moving forward. So traditionally, whatever we are considering as absolute, universal, for the case of marriage, we will say that, decades back there were no divorces and all. Nowadays people are doing divorces just like that, without any emotional attachment, without any difficulty. There are many other reasons why it is happening like that. So there were no divorces back then because women had no opportunity to do that. Women had no stand of their own. Women were treated in a different way. There were no rights. There were no concept of rights for women. There were no jobs for women. Women were unskilled people. Women had no education. So how come they know what they want? How come they can get the courage to leave a person? So important. If you are a married person, you can understand this. So it's like this. Traditionally, whatever we are believed as absolute and universal, in true, or what we believe as true, in fact they are contingent. Historically they are contingent. It happened in a certain period of time. After that, when people got changed, people got educated, social reforms and cultural changes happened, practices differed, and some other habits, some other notions evolved. Okay, to Foucault, even the idea of absolute knowledge is historically contingent idea. So the idea that now we feel that knowledge is absolute, that itself is a historically contingent idea. The idea about knowledge can change after a certain period of time, and it was something else before, decades back. Foucault argues that we always begin anew when it comes to knowledge. So when it comes to knowledge, we argue that we always begin anew. But it is not like that. There are always a pool of knowledge from which we are starting. At the same time, Foucault is critical of modern Western philosophy for lacking spirituality. With the spirituality, Foucault refers to a certain type of ethical being, the processes that led to this state of being. So he criticizes the modern Western philosophy, especially for its lack of spirituality. When Western philosophy evolved, came into being, what happened? It lacked spirituality. It was completely out of this spiritual thought. By spirituality, Foucault doesn't mean that the religions that we have seen now, the institutionalized religions that we have among us, that we are also part of. So that is not referred as spirituality. It is the process through which we come to this state. So that kind of a spirituality lacking in Western philosophy that he is critical about, and Foucault argues that such a spirituality was a natural part of the ancient Greek philosophy. So ancient Greek philosophy, what is this? This spirituality that he is referring now, that was a natural part of Greek philosophy, where knowledge was considered as something that was only accessible to those that had an ethical character. So by spirituality he means the ethical being, the ethical side of human being. Okay, so he says that such a philosophy is naturally part of ancient Greek philosophy, where the knowledge was considered something. So knowledge is a phenomena which is something that can be only accessible if you are an ethical person, if you have an ethical character, then only you can access that philosophy or access that knowledge. So that was the philosophy related to knowledge back then. But in Western philosophy, it was not like that. Now, according to Foucault, this changed in the Cartesian movement, the moment when René Descartes reached the insight that self-awareness was something given, and from this insight, Descartes drew conclusions about God, the world, and knowledge. So this trend about knowledge actually changed in the Cartesian movement, where René Descartes. So this dialogue is quite famous, that I think therefore I am. So the insight, the spiritual insight, that is the awareness given more importance. From this insight, Descartes drew his conclusions about God, the world, knowledge. So from this insight that he reached, about that insight that self-awareness was something given, more important, self-awareness, that whatever we know, that much only we know. Absolute knowledge is impossible. So I think therefore I am. So the being of me is depending about the thought process that I have inside me. So that I think therefore I am. So that self-awareness was given, and from this insight, Descartes drew conclusions about God, the world, and knowledge. In modern times, Foucault argues anyone can reach knowledge as long as they are rational beings, educated, willing to participate in the scientific community and use scientific method. Foucault is critical of this modern view of knowledge. So in modern times, what is the concept of knowledge? Anyone can have knowledge if you are willing to get educated, if you are willing to use rationality that you have, if you are willing to participate in the scientific community, scientific journey, if you are willing to view anything in a scientific way, then you can reach to knowledge. So that's what knowledge in the modern times. So mainly we are also believing it that way only. Foucault is also critical about this modern view of knowledge as well. Now let's see Foucault's major works. He has written some other important papers and works too, but I have mentioned his major works only. First one is Madness and Civilization, published in 1961. You can read along with me, or you can pause the video and read the titles 2-3 times so that you remember them. Madness and Civilization in 1961. Then Death and the Labyrinth, The World of Raymond Russell, published in 1963. Birth of the Clinic in 1963. The Order of Things in 1966. The Archaeology of Knowledge in 1969. Discipline and Punish in 1975. The History of Sexuality Volume 1 and Introduction in 1976. The History of Sexuality Volume 2, The Use of Pleasure in 1984. The History of Sexuality Volume 3, The Care of the Self, published in 1984. Okay, so these are the important works. Do remember them one by one in this order itself, because question can ask in order to arrange the works in the chronological order. So that's a popular question in NTE UGC NET JRF paper 2 exam. Now that's all about it. That's all about Foucault. I know this was so short. If you want any particular attention to any particular concept of Foucault, you can ask that in the comment section. If you have any doubts, queries, questions, you can also comment that, or you can use this WhatsApp number to reach out to me, or visit my website. Subscribe to my channel, press the bell icon and like button if you liked this video, if this was helpful for you. And thanks for watching this video. I hope this was so helpful for you. Meet you in the next video session. Until then, stay tuned to High Point and be happy. Ta-ta. Bye-bye.